Hello, and welcome to Adventures with ADHD, where I get to talk to fabulous neurodivergent folk who tell us their stories and offer insights, wisdom, and tips. I've got Amanda Millar here today. How are you doing, Amanda?
I'm doing great. It's great to see you, Susie.
Thank you. Well, thanks for coming. Let's get straight in. Amanda, tell us a bit about who you are and what you do for your business.
Okay, I'm Amanda Millar. I am a lawyer by training. I am now one of the founders of a business called Buchanan Millar, where what we do from a consultancy and training perspective is help individuals and organisations work out what's working, what's not working, find out why, and help people find solutions to make better decisions, better outcomes, and make their businesses and their lives generally more successful.
Nice.
And that's where we're at.
Yeah. And do you also do a bit of ADHD coaching as
I
well?
do. I Part of what we do is I trained as an ADHD coach probably about 18 months ago now, and part of the rationale for that is when I worked as a lawyer. I was a specialist in mental health law, but also in something called adults with incapacity law, where I worked quite often with people who were unable to deal with certain aspects of their lives. And one of the things that struck me from that was that I was working with some, particularly in that environment, with young people who were unable to manage elements of day-to-day life to the point where the people were being authorised to make decisions for them. And there were some really bright, capable, talented people who were able to do lots of things that maybe even you and I couldn't do,
Mm.
but they weren't able to understand or deal with issues that many of society take for granted. Some of the day-to-day stuff, the shopping, the washing, the eating, all of those kind of things, and people were encountering levels of overwhelm. And I felt that there was a really big missed opportunity for so many, and as I say, in this environment, particularly young people who are missing out on being able to use their skills and make their way in the world.
Yeah.
So I looked at coaching because I'd stepped away from legal practice by that point. Looked at coaching as a way of being able to help people who are thriving in lots of ways in their lives, but
Yeah.
not so much in others, and helping them find solutions that work for them.
Yeah.
And I find coaching is really empowering for that,
Yeah.
because I work with some phenomenally talented people, and then you have conversations with them and they say very simple things like, I never even thought about that.
Mm.
And it's really empowering to see what kind of difference that can make to people's lives. And it gets them time, it allows them to be able to manage other things, and it gives them back, quite often can give them back some joy. And I really love that.
Yeah. Yeah, amazing. It's so powerful. And I just wish everyone could have a coach because
Yeah,
it certainly helped me on my journey,
yeah,
definitely.
great.
Yeah. So what sorts of workshops do you deliver then? Um yeah.
Um, Well, we do a variety of things, and certainly at the moment we're working on developing a leadership program to help businesses, to help organisations understand how their leadership is working and whether that's working particularly well, why certain things might not be landing. There are lots of people working in business who are in that scenario of working with business as usual, and there's so much to do in order to keep the wheels on the road, in that sense, so people are not able to think about maybe the benefits of inclusion in their workplace, able to understand why colleagues might be leaving, so they've got difficulties with retention. They've got colleagues who are maybe not as productive as they might like to be, and not really understanding why that might be.
Yeah.
Having some great staff but not being able to support them properly, and so do the best for their staff but also do the best for the business and that kind of thing. So looking at building those kind of packages for organisations, and in terms of workshops, looking at working with groups where we talk about understanding neurodiversity in a way that hopefully sits well with people, and allowing them to go, oh, that might be why that happens to me. That's why.
Yeah.
And then having that broader conversation about, well, what solutions could we find? What might work well for you? What things have you tried? What things don't work? And potentially looking at doing that in a group setting. We're looking at doing that in a group setting because there are some people who they maybe don't have the opportunity, the time, the resource, or whatever to look at one-to-one coaching.
Mm.
But they might have a level of curiosity. So it's about being able to have that group session where there's a level of curiosity, do it in a psychologically safe way and in a safe space so that people are empowered to come. They might just come and listen, and that would be fine. And then see if there are opportunities for light bulb moments. I'm a big fan of using your curiosity to help people, because I always find my curiosity finds light bulb moments for me. So hopefully helping other people find their own, and then being able to kind of take steps on in that respect. So
Yeah. Lovely. And what are some of the difficulties businesses face with inclusion around neurodiversity, do you think?
I think one of the challenges at the moment, and there are undoubtedly a lot of challenges, but there are lots of places looking at policies and procedures
Mm.
and things that people are required because the law requires them to do it, to put into place. And there are some organisations where they say, well, we have all of these policies, and so we're doing okay. But they're still losing people. They've
Mm.
still got limited productivity. They've still got sometimes a limited understanding of why some folk are not jumping for joy at things that are being offered to them at work. And some of that's kind of
Mm.
culture oriented. And it is about, and I think this is where some of the challenges come in relation to business as usual. Because when people are under pressure and they are overwhelmed, and that's regardless of whether you're neurodivergent or not, that puts pressure on time, it puts pressure on resource, and resource isn't just money. Resource is emotional capability, time to stop and think, all of those kind of things. And when you're looking at people who are neurodivergent, or you have people who are neurodivergent, and they may or may not want to talk about it, and
Yeah.
that should be fine.
Yeah.
Um, but having people acknowledge that a one size fits all scenario is not meaningfully the way forward, and I would argue that it's not meaningfully the way forward for successful businesses and organizations either, because that diversity of thought, that diversity of experience, that diversity of understanding, and the opportunity to be supportive of that is really important. But it has the potential to be incredibly empowering and impactful, both for the organizations and for the individuals. So by operating in that way and including people in a much more open and curious way means that businesses are more successful, colleagues are more motivated to go to work, turn up for work,
Yeah.
share their ideas because they feel empowered to be able to do that. And acknowledging that people have a range of skills and talents is what facilitates businesses being the best they can be, and ultimately, in my view, facilitates society being the best it can be.
Yeah.
Variety and diversity is what empowers all of us, because none of us are the same,
No.
regardless of how we might like to think that.
Thank goodness we're not.
Absolutely. What a boring place it would be if we were all the same.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, amazing. So what would you say to a leader who genuinely wants to create an inclusive culture? What should they do?
Take their curiosity with them everywhere that they go. Appreciate, and in my experience, in my experience, many leaders who are motivated and have that level of curiosity, they have the opportunity to deliver better outcomes. So go with curiosity. Accept that you don't know it all, which can sometimes be a bit of a challenge,
Yeah.
because people who feel that they're in positions of authority feel that it's incredibly important to know everything and instill that confidence in other people that they know everything, etc. And that doesn't ultimately help because people then don't get it. But also ask the questions. When I talk about curiosity, it involves ask questions that you genuinely want to know the answer to, and take the 30 seconds, and if possible a little bit longer, to listen to the answer, actually hear the answer, and then reflect on that, build your
Yeah.
knowledge. And if you go with a level of genuine curiosity, because there's a lot of, particularly when we're working in the inclusion space, lots of people continue to say, I don't know what to say, and so I'll say nothing because
Yeah.
that's safer. And actually, it can often be more damaging to say nothing, particularly if you're sitting in a place of good intent. If you're sitting in a place of good intent and you come with your good intent and your genuine curiosity, even if you get it slightly wrong, I think there's a better chance that the person that you were talking to is going to not quite give you a break, but gently explain why it might be problematic.
Yeah.
And that's why it's important to then listen to the answers. So go with the genuine curiosity rather than I'm a leader who's telling you what all the answers are and I just expect you to deliver.
Yeah.
Because that simply maintains business as usual, and it doesn't empower people to help you be better,
Yeah.
because we all have the opportunity to be better.
Absolutely. And that's why I left so many jobs, partly because of I got bored, but partly because I didn't feel listened to, and
Ah,
people didn't take the time. So when you say listen and hear and reflect, and something I always say is believe what people tell you, because, we're one autistic person will be very different to the next autistic person. So we can't say, well,
100%.
they need that, so you must need that. And, that's where it can get
Yeah.
really tricky.
And I guess to from to some extent, from my when I used to work before, and people would do things like they would have great plans, and part of their job would be to develop great plans, and they would develop great plans for people. And I remember having conversations of, did you have a conversation with
Mm,
this person about this plan before you implemented it? No. So what, can you understand why they might not be as ecstatic about this plan that you've developed as you are?
yeah.
No. Because if somebody developed a plan for you and they didn't include you in the conversation, regardless of what your
Yeah.
issues, challenges, joys of life might be, if you're not included in the conversation, there is an element of, or potentially the chance for a hurdle of, you're now going to have to overcome the hurdle of not including me in the first place to persuade me why this is a good idea. Whereas if you'd included me in the first place, I might have been able to give you some indication of the unintended consequences of how this might impact on me.
Yeah.
And I might also have given you a little bit more of a break about how it played out because you'd included me in the process. And while it wasn't perfect, at least I was in it.
Yeah, and with some autonomy, because for many of us neurodivergent folks, autonomy is crucial. And when that's taken away, I mean, goodness, I think I might have been quite hard to manage when I was in the workplace. I was without autonomy. Give me autonomy. I was a great
Yeah.
employee. So
Yeah.
it's
These are the things we would like you to do. Please now just go off and find your own way to get them done.
yeah.
We trust you to go off and do it.
Trust.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a huge thing. And like you say, some leaders feel they have to know it all. And sometimes we have to help people trust and help people find their own way,
Yeah.
like you just said. So inclusion, of course, isn't just
No.
neurodiversity. Um, So in your bio, you were one of the first openly LGBTQI plus presidents of the Law, was it the Law Society?
Law Society of Scotland was the first and frustratingly still the only. But
Wow. Yeah.
so
So
yeah.
what did that mean to you to
Um
take that role?
it was interesting, and it was a consideration certainly when I stood for election, had a conversation with my wife about how open we would be, etc., all of those kind of things. Because frustratingly, that's still a consideration for lots of people, and actually, for some, probably becoming even more of a consideration in the world that we live in at the moment.
Mm,
Um, but quite, I think, ultimately quite impactful. Um, it's an easy thing to say and want to believe in that it shouldn't be important,
mm,
and I believe that it shouldn't be important, but it is, because we continue to live in an environment where seeing people like you, knowing that there are people who might have lives that have more similarities to yours than the people who live next door, might be important. You know, when we see television programs, visibility is important. And it is that combination of doing good work, but being visible for the person that you are, alongside the work,
yeah.
in many respects. And so it's a challenge, I think. But I think it's important. You know, I have that kind of scenario of, if I look back in terms of abilities and so on, it was very important to me, and I'm quite taken with the idea that I was in a contested election to become president, and ultimately was successful. I was also, before that, I was the first solicitor who was a specialist in mental health law and in adults with incapacity, or
Wow.
in incapacity and mental disability law, which is what they technically call it. And if I look back, there were a range of first things. And none of those things on the face of them should be important, but they
Mm,
are, because until you get the first person to do some of these things, you don't get to the next person, and you don't get to it being more accessible for people. And it should be accessible. You know, as far as the legal profession is concerned, and it's important that the legal profession, I believe, adequately represents the diversity of our wider society, because it plays such an important role in our society. Is it as diverse as it could be? Probably not. Is
mm,
it as diverse as it should be? Probably not. Is it better than it was when I entered the profession? Yes. Is there work still to do? 100%. People who might follow me on LinkedIn, etc. When I became president of Law Society, I acquired this hashtag, which is called Much Still to Do.
mm.
And it's something that we're looking probably to run through the business as well, because society generally, there is much still to do. And
Gosh.
in the current climate, if we look at headlines in relation to neurodivergent people, people from the LGBTQ plus community, racism, sexism, misogyny, we look at all of those things, none of them are significantly improved.
Mm,
You know, when we look at recent news, we're seeing lots of real challenges around particular elements of healthcare, and some of them are gender specific. There
yeah.
are some challenges around sports and various other issues, and we have a range of high profile, powerful people with less than inclusive views.
Yeah. Yeah. So many. It's really concerning at the moment,
It
the
is,
amount
but
of people that feel like they now have a green light to come out with their views.
yes, and I think that's why the visibility has become almost more has become more important, But we also have to acknowledge that for role models, there's a particular burden that comes from that level of visibility and carrying it. And how do we work with people to ensure that our allies are more supportive, to ensure that the role models are properly supported so that the burden is being shared, etc. But I can absolutely empathise with why many people just now are going, no, don't want to say anything, don't want to do anything. I would just prefer if people didn't see me at all. But that's incredibly sad.
Yeah.
And should be a blight on society that if that's an acceptable way to be. But I can 100% empathise with why people are, when we talk about authenticity is important, but authenticity comes at the moment with a level. There are degrees of authenticity.
Yeah.
And I can, as I say, I can empathise with why people are going, yeah, I'm my authentic self, but you're not getting 100% of me at the moment. You're getting an authentic version of me, but you're not getting all of me. And the reason
Yeah.
you're not getting all of me is because of, and quite often you will not know why you're not getting all of somebody because they're not in a position to share
Yeah.
and as I say, that's incredibly sad, but it is understandable
Yeah.
in the current environment.
Yeah, and that was actually one of my questions when people say, unmask, bring your whole self to work. But is that realistic? Well, it's not, is it?
And it comes back to a bit of what we talked about earlier. It's not realistic necessarily for everybody, and it depends where they are, what their culture is, what their environment is, what part of the world they might live in, whether they can continue to, and whether it's possible for them to be their completely authentic selves.
Yeah.
So there are a whole range of degrees about that, and there's also that element of depending on when we talk about be unmasked and 100% your authentic self, there's also that element of depending on the environment you work in. I mean, I trained as a lawyer, so it would appear in court, dark clothes, suit, all of those kind of things. Now, I wouldn't necessarily have turned up in sequins and
That's quite the image.
yeah, well, so and there are things in that respect that we need to be cognizant of. But equally, what people's ability isn't necessarily shown by what they wear to work. But you don't expect a football team to not turn out in a kit where they all look the same.
Mm. Yeah.
So there is an element of balance there. What does authenticity look like? Our armed forces go out in uniform, etc. So there are varying degrees, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't allow everybody who wants to and meets those tests and those qualifications to be able to do that work. And
Mm.
it's that level, and that's where we end up with discrimination, etc. And I'm not employment law is not my area of expertise, so not something to talk. But it's about where you build that cultural balance.
Yeah.
Include everybody, allow as much as possible, and have that level of authenticity. But if somebody says, please don't paint your nails because of the work that you're doing, then that's not necessarily a personal slight on somebody who wants to constantly have multicolored nails.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, there's so much
Do them
to
when you're not,
it.
have it when you're not at your work.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a huge, huge, huge conversation that could be kind of
Whole new podcast.
a whole new, yeah, lots more episodes.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so to kind of start bringing this to the end then, what's one thing you wish every workplace understood about inclusion?
That it's a positive.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. That's it. That's all you need to say on that. It is, yeah, and everything we've just spoken about kind of
Yeah.
all leads to that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we need people to stop listening to the media and being so scared of it because
Yeah.
it's a positive thing.
Completely, because working in a place where everybody who looks and sounds like you is not as productive as it could be.
Mm. Yeah.
because everybody looking and sounding like you means the decisions are based on very similar experiences.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what makes it a positive. If you have that variety, everybody benefits.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, what have you got coming up? Have you got any workshops that people can attend or things?
No, nothing active at the moment, but people are welcome to have a look on the website if folk think that coaching or particular areas of training or something that I could come and speak at. If you're taken with the way that I talk, feel
Yeah.
free to reach out. There are lots of things I could talk about.
Yeah.
Well-being, inclusion, business performance, leadership generally, or just generally, let's have a chat.
Yes. Yeah. Reach out. And
Yeah,
you're based in Scotland, but
yes,
are you kind of willing to travel
ab
far and wide?
absolutely. I'm in London next week.
Oh, cool.
So
Okay. Oh,
yeah,
I'm like, oh,
happy to travel.
yeah. Okay. And where can people find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. So I'm Amanda Millar. If you look up Amanda Millar, Millar AR on LinkedIn, you should be able to find me. The hair is quite distinctive. We have a Buchanan Millar account as well, and we have a website. I don't have extensive socials other than finding me on LinkedIn,
There you
but
go.
you're welcome to reach out.
Yeah. Do get in touch with Amanda. Lots and lots of amazing insights. Thank you so much for coming along today. It's been great
Oh,
having you.
great to chat to you, Susie.
Thank you.